Emotional roller coasters in gaming come in all different shapes and sizes, but I wasn't prepared for just how much of a roller coaster Kulebra and the Souls of Limbo turned out to be when I embarked on its quite beautiful, bold and colourful and cheery and approachable 2.5D world for a story-rich adventure. I knew I was going in for some emotional damage when I was starting off, because the idea of this game is that you play as Kulebra, this bony snake, wandering through Limbo, trying to get from entry to exit to move on. But as you go through different locations from place to place, you'll meet casts of characters trapped in Limbo too, and through your actions and puzzle solving and fetch questing and a quite nifty time loop mechanic, you'll be helping those residents move on as part of your journey to moving on too. So I had some inkling that this was going to be an emotional ride. I didn't expect it to hit nearly as hard as it did in all of the great and beautiful ways it does. The idea of Kulebra and the Souls of Limbo is that you are moving through Limbo, but this is anything but a dull environment, as you can see from all of the bright, bold, beautiful graphics on the screen. It is taking inspiration from Mexican Dawn of the Dead culture, and so it's no surprise that I immediately go to games like Guacamelee for its kind of inspiration, because that's also Mexican themed. That Mexican beauty travels through some of the sound design as well, but the kind of lore and characters and whatever else is going on in the world kind of stops there, because then each world and environment has its own unique story. You'll meet a cast of characters where a family has been broken up and has never really recovered. Or it could be generational trauma between parents and children and not feeling seen or loved, and then how that spills out across the course of their lives has then affected them in their afterlife and they can't move on. Some people are chasing fame and feel empty, for example. There's all different kinds of scenarios. And what you'll do is, upon meeting these characters, talk with them through the text conversations that you'll have and work out exactly how their mind ticks and works through your notebook, which will give you notes on each of the characters, your overarching quests, and the different locations and objects that you've got to try and keep your lore about it as you go. Helping you along the way are a couple of birds from like a really cool mail unit that fly in and announce themselves and give you some tips and then fly off the other way. And you'll also be buying, transacting and trading things through pearls that you'll collect by your special move ability, which is to do a rolling dash into various different objects and environments that will knock over vases that will smash and unveil pearls inside them. This isn't really a platforming game though, this is a story-rich, heavy adventure. So expect lots of text, expect lots of kind of mulling over what's the next object to deal with, and crucially, you'll be mulling over what time of day it is that you want to be in. Because Kulebra and the Souls of Limbo splits itself up into daytime, evening and night. And you'll be able to sit on a bench and fast forward to each location, but this game has a moving time loop, so you only have a certain amount of time in certain locations, and once the end of the night is over, the whole loop of everyone trapped in Limbo starts again from the morning the next day. All of your knowledge obviously carries over, but none of the characters' knowledge does. And so you'll be piecing together through different interrogations or puzzles or unlocking more conversational tree branches what it is that you need to do and what's going on to progress the puzzles by moving from evening to night to daytime. And characters will move locations, so will objects, so will different objectives. And it's a really cool way to make what is not a small world, but there's a limited amount of locations, go an awful long way, because they change setup and meaning and purpose as they travel through day, evening and night. This also helps you gather more lore about the world too, because when you then get to a boss battle, and there are plenty of them in the game, you'll then be wanting to pull them out from the darkness into the light. And this will be answering trivia questions about where you are, the characters, what their motivations are, what their problems are, and what their underlying traumas are, so that you can illuminate it back into their faces, and then they have to deal with it. And once they deal with it, they then kind of have a moment of realization and then will fade into like a crystalline dust, and then you'll be able to move on and continue on with your adventure. And the way how this is gamified but feels impactful every time this happens is really what sells Kulebra and the Souls of Limbo as being a fully invested experience, because the characters are well rounded, they're memorable, they all have their faults or their mysteries or their weird quirks. And even the air quote villains in the game have an awful lot of humanity too. And it's not until you get underneath that you can start to break down why they've become the villain that they are in this particular story. And you can kind of offer them forgiveness and the opportunity to move on. And it's that in its totality that makes Kulebra and the Souls of Limbo such a compelling experience to play. No villain is a total villain. No good person, air quote, is a total good person. Everyone has shadows and flaws and aspirations and dreams. And for each chapter lasts a couple of hours, so you kind of get to live in the world and the characters before you resolve them and move on. And so they feel like little mini indie films as you then move from place to place. And the game kind of opens up and feels much more connected over time. But it felt like I lived 5 indie films during this experience and felt like I was interacting with them and helping them along on their way. And there was such personal joy in helping them all move on. It's just really well written and structured. And I found myself totally invested in the world, as well as Kulebra itself, and trying to work out what the overarching plot was doing too. I think for me, this game deals with the concept of humanity exceptionally well, because all of the characters are flawed and they've all had a hard reality or a harsh reality in their real lives that broke them. And so with Kulebra, the character, then offering them forgiveness, humanity, grace, respect, dignity, and space to process their thoughts and emotions from that harsh reality that the real world didn't give them. It's one of those concepts that just kind of makes you step back and think, and that's why it leaves or lingers with me long after playing, because I'm busy kind of tugging at some of the concepts that it's playing with, and I'm picking them in my brain and thinking about how I might want to do something different in real life. And from that perspective, Kulebra and the Souls of Limbo is a bang 10 out of 10 experience, and one of the best indie game narratives or story-based narratives that I played in gaming, definitely in 2025, and if not over the last couple of years. If that's not a great recommendation, I don't know what is. So yeah, 2 huge thumbs up for me. This is a sleeper hit in waiting, and I hope it finds its audience. Kulebra and the Souls of Limbo is out now.